Bitcoin is the ultimate form of private property, but it is only money, right? Clearly, Bitcoin is not going to replace the title to your car or your stock certificate. So we're talking about one, I mean, it's the most important form of property, but it's not all the rest of the property. So government's still here. As I just described, Bitcoin in the long run closes that window for governments to use inflation as a revenue source, which is the real problem with government ultimately. If you just take away the money printer and they, just like any other organization, this is a really important point that, and I think we'll all get this intuitively, all human organizations are businesses. So even when we call something a government or a central bank or this or that, like they're all businesses. If they're not satisfying human wants profitably, they will go away. The difference with the state is that it has given itself the monopoly on the money printer such that no matter what losses it incurs, what economic losses it generates, it can always paper over those losses by printing money to pay its bills, right? Printing money to pay its debt, as we see worldwide in every state in the world. What does this mean? It means that you have, as the dominant organization in the world, a business that produces perpetual losses effectively, but keeps covering over those losses and externalizing the cost of those losses onto the poorest in society. So this is why we have, in my opinion, the civilizational boom and bust. You know, you have a civilization come up on hard money, good rule of law, people can trade and produce wealth. We've got all this good morale, rah, rah, here we go. Well, over time, because all of those laws preserving property are just written on paper, as new rulers come into power, they eventually start to abdicate from that rule set, right? They start to debase the currency, clip the coins, print the money, install the central bank, whatever it is. And then you've started to dilute the glue, if you will, property and money being the glue that's holding civilization together in a network of voluntary exchange. You've started to dilute that with involuntary exchange, with theft. And once you start to integrate and systemize theft, the whole thing starts to dissolve. It gets violent, it gets ugly. So with gold, this might be a useful analogy for gold as well. The reason gold became money, I mean, one of the core reasons is that effectively its supply was encrypted. It was encrypted via chemistry, and that none of us could figure out how to produce it profitably, which is another way of saying nobody could counterfeit gold. We couldn't fake it. We had to engage in work. We had to expend energy, time, resources to extract gold from the ground, to refine it, and to trade it. That was a restraint, effectively. And Bitcoin has just taken that same property where we have something that humans can't corrupt, right? Humans could not corrupt the supply of gold, no matter how hard we tried. You know, you could study alchemy, which wasn't necessarily about producing fake gold, but it was one of the general aims. No one's ever done it. No one's ever figured it out. And by the way, we can produce gold in a lab today. We just can't do it less than the marginal cost of production of mining. So Bitcoin has given us that uncounterfeitable money in a world run by global currency counterfeiting operations that we call central banks. And it also, because gold was physical, this was also a problem, because if you could just kill the person holding the gold, you could take their gold. So there's an inducement to violence implicit in the physicality of gold. Well, Bitcoin is dematerialized gold. It's just information. So now the same guy that you were trying to coerce or hurt to take his gold, if he's transferred all that into Bitcoin, there's no way to get that out of him. You can still go kill the guy, but you're not going to get paid for it. So it removes this inducement to violence that gold has, it's been with us forever. It's been with us forever. Everything we've done over the past 5,000 years has been gold-based. And so we've had this underlying theme of violence integrated into social organization that Bitcoin sort of removes, because there's no profitability to coercion or violence on a Bitcoin standard. And further, it's giving citizens unparalleled optionality, because Bitcoin is dematerialized. As you talked about the Jews trying to escape Nazi Germany, the tax rate, initially the exit tax was 50%. then it was 70%, then it was 80%, then it was 90%, then it was 100%, and they kill you. Like it's bananas, right? You couldn't get out. You could not get out of the tyrannical state because fucking property and money was physical. But now you can put your private keys on your brain or put it in a multi-sig. You know, there's a million ways to do it. You can, it's any information bearing medium can store Bitcoin.
So you spoke to gold. So gold was rare. There's the whole proof of work aspect of you get a miner to actually get it. It doesn't inflate well. It goes up at what, like 1.5% a year or something.
It's predictable.
It's very predictable. So as long as we use gold as the underpinning for our currencies, we were safe. But somehow at some point, something happened that drove governments to say, you know what, while it was great to have, you know, we'd create this fiat currency, we'd create this banknote, which I don't think yet by definition is really fiat currency. The banknote itself was just a note against the amount of gold that I was holding, right? Which said, I'm not going to move my gold from here to there because I live in France, you live in England, and for me to move that bar of gold from here to there, there's risk, there's cost, there's all of that stuff. So what I'm going to rather do is send you a note that says to you, you've got dibs on a shaving of my piece of gold. Effectively, it's 100 francs or whatever it is. You've got that. You can come make a claim anytime you want to take the gold from me, right? So now that was the system where we had the unit of currency linked directly to gold, right? Yes. At some point, something happened where governments decided, you know what, it's not really working out for us all that well. What was it that happened that wasn't working out so well for governments to retain that one-for-one relationship?
Well, think of it like this. So you described it well. Gold is money, was selected by a free market process that I've talked a lot about. Let's just take that for granted at this point. But it wasn't ideal money. Again, we talked about the physicality. That was a problem. In terms of it being obtainable via violence, that's clearly a problem. Also, the portability of gold, right? If I'm in France and you're over in the US and we want to do a deal, I now have to ship you physical gold across the world and take all the risk and who's going to secure it and the cost of transporting this heavy metal. Like, it doesn't work for a globalizing society. So this is a technological shortcoming of gold. And that is why, I mean, the economics of gold itself is the reason we centralize its custody into bank vaults and then put a paper warehouse receipt, is what it was called originally. You would warehouse the gold, you get a warehouse receipt saying I could take this paper to the warehouse and redeem the gold. We would then transact in these warehouse receipts as if they were as good as gold because they were intended to be. But what has this done? This technological limitation of gold has led to the centralization of its custody and introduced the human element. We now need to trust the warehouse operator, right? That he will not create more paper than his gold reserves can justify. Well, governments identify this as the biggest honeypot in the world. Like, if you have the monopoly on violence already and you face any problem whatsoever, and money is the ultimate problem-solving technology, right? It can be used to redeem anything that humans can do. Well, what is the first thing you're going to do as the monopolist on violence? Hey, we're in a deficit. Well, how about this bank we've been guarding that has a ton of gold in it, and that, they're just printing paper on top of the gold and people are transacting in it? Why don't we just have that bank issue us a loan or issue us new currency? Or why don't we just monopolize the whole thing into this legal monopoly called the central bank, and then we control it? So that has been the pattern.
But there was a move away from gold, right? There's a move away from gold.
Well, the move away from gold occurs the moment you print one more dollar than you have gold reserves. Then it becomes a fraudulent organization, because you're saying I have 100 tons of gold on deposit. The moment I issue 101 tons of receipts, I'm engaged in a pyramid scheme, effectively. If I issued all those notes into the marketplace and everyone came to redeem them at the same time, I would not have enough gold to satisfy that demand. That's the bank run. The only reason a bank run is a problem is because we introduced the gold-backed currency out of convenience, right? Gold was not convenient to use as money, so we abstracted it into paper. But from that convenience, we incentivized corruption. Now, all I need to do as a warehouse operator, even if the warehouse operator has a heart of gold and he's purely moral to the bone, do you think when a government official shows up with a gun in the face and says, hey, print a few more of those dollars, or you and your family get it? Do you think he's not going to do that? I mean, it's the physicality of the money that's been a problem. It's a problem almost as pernicious and old as the property problem, that we needed physical security and meat space to preserve the relationship between individual and asset.